Friends, I welcome you to my channel. Before listening to this story, I will ask you to like and subscribe. It is not difficult for you, but it is pleasant for me. And we're starting. I looked out the window and saw the freshly fallen snow. All the houses along the street were decorated on the occasion of the new year. Santa Clauses and reindeer on the roofs, Christmas scenes in the courtyards in front of the house, garlands on Christmas trees outside and inside, glowing through the windows. The spirit of the holiday was everywhere, just not in my house. I turned away from the window and looked around. The tree was lying on the floor, in shards of glass from broken light bulbs and broken Christmas decorations. I probably should have seen this coming. Candy has always had a short temper, and she didn't like her Christmas present. She didn't like it at all. But what do they always say? Is it not the gift that is important, but the attention? I took one last look at the mess and decided that cleaning could wait until morning, and then went to bed. Candy and I were married for 5 relatively prosperous years. I was her second husband, and she was my third. We both worked as middle managers, and 2 salaries, as well as the absence of children, allowed us to lead quite a decent lifestyle. Candy and I were party lovers, and on weekends you could bet that we'd be at a party, throw a party, or go out drinking and dancing. Candy was a beautiful woman, and she attracted a lot of male attention in a calm environment and dressed conservatively. At parties where alcohol flowed freely, loud music played and there were no prohibitions. She was dressed to attract attention that bordered on shocking. She was constantly being molested, and the men spent a lot of time trying to separate Candy from the crowd and take her to a place where they could try their luck in privacy. Candy waved them off good-naturedly, but that never stopped them from coming back and trying again. And me? Like most men who are lucky enough to get such a desirable woman, I had to learn to live with it. This is not difficult to do when you absolutely trust your partner. I would have sat quietly knowing that Candy belonged to me, and that no matter how persistent the men were, she would have brushed them off. Candy had a best friend. Marlene and Candy had known each other since elementary school and were closer than most sisters. I didn't know Marlene very well, but I didn't like her. There was just something about her that didn't suit me. When I met Candy and we started dating, Marlene always seemed to be around. And I know it sounds silly, but whenever Marlene was around, I felt foreboding. Fortunately, in my opinion, Marlene got married about 6 months before Candy and I did. And Marlene's husband got a job in another state and they moved. Marlene and Frank got married in a civil ceremony, and of course Candy just had to be there. And I had no choice. I remember looking at Frank and wondering what a solid guy like him could have attracted to Marlene. Although I barely knew them both, I would have bet 20 to 1 that their union would last a long time. Frank and Marlene flew here to be with me when Candy and I got married, and I couldn't help but notice how exhausted Frank looked. I wondered if it was caused by his new job or his new wife. Marlene may have lived out of state, but that didn't mean she disappeared from Candy's life. They talked on the phone 2 or 3 times a week, and sometimes their weekend calls lasted more than 2 hours. One Sunday, after one of those 2-hour calls, Candy asked me if I would mind if she took a couple of days and visited Marlene. I have time for communication ahead of me, and things are not going smoothly between her and Frank. She needs a little encouragement. Do you really think it's wise to go there and interfere in their problems? You can only make the situation worse. She is my oldest and dearest friend, but I do not turn a blind eye to her shortcomings. She can be a little hard to live with, and maybe my presence will take some of the pressure off Frank. I didn't think her leaving was a good idea, but I was smart enough to realize that my attempts to talk Candy out of it would only ruin our marriage. So I just said, "You know her better than I do, honey, and if you think visiting will help, then go." Candy was gone for 5 days, and when she returned, she seemed worried about something. I assumed that her visit did not go as she expected, but I did not pry. And after a couple of days, she was back to her old self. 6 months later, Candy asked me again if I would mind if she visited Marlene. I didn't want her to do it, but I didn't have a good reason to refuse, and I knew I wasn't going to get away with it. "I'd rather you didn't do that." All I would achieve is that Candy would ask me why, and the answer, because I don't like her, would be unacceptable. Candy was gone for 4 days, and when she returned, she was a little out of sorts, just like after her first visit. But, like last time, she was fine after a couple of days. Over the next year, Candy took a 3-day weekend every 3 or 4 months and visited Marlene, and always came back within a hair's breadth of death. But after a couple of days, all her bad mood passed. And then one day Candy came up to me and said, "Baby, can I ask you a huge favor?" I do not know why not. I never say no to you, do I? You can do it this time. Why would I do that? I'm not blind, baby. You've never said a word to me about it, but I know you don't like Marlene. I thought I hid it pretty well. Maybe from others, but I know you too well. I take it that this huge favor has something to do with Marlene? She and Frank broke up and she's coming back here. Can she live in a spare bedroom until she finds a job in her own place? I didn't want to say no. I wanted to scream, "Damn it, no!" But that would only make my relationship with Candy worse. In order to keep this peace, I had no choice but to agree. A week later, Marlene moved in with us, but less than a week later, everything started to change. Nothing special at first. It was just that Candy and Marlene spent a lot of time together in the kitchen, laughing and talking, which in itself meant nothing, but it always seemed to subside or stop when I entered the room. Then Marlene and Candy started having a bachelorette party once a week. Then, every Saturday and Sunday, the two of them went in search of an apartment that they seemed to have never been able to find. The only thing it took me weeks to notice was that when Candy returned from an evening walk or apartment search, she kept a little aloof from me, just as she returned from her visits to Marlene. It didn't last more than a day, but it was, and I noticed it. One day I was at work when my secretary told me that Frank McBride was asking for me on line 3. Frank was Marlene's husband, or rather her ex-husband, so I answered the phone. After a brief exchange of pleasantries, he got straight to the point. I suffered for a long time because of this. At first I told myself that it was none of my business, and I thought that maybe you already knew that you and Candy had one of those open marriages, but the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I had to call you. I wouldn't want you to have AIDS. What are you trying to tell me, Frank? I'm not going to tell you anything. I'll just send you a package. You can watch it and make your own decision. The fact that Marlene is with you now means that I have accepted mine. I sent the package this morning, so you'll get it the day after tomorrow. Take care of yourself and good luck, he said before hanging up. There was no way in the world I could understand what Frank was trying to tell me. Of course, I didn't have a dead mind, so it was obvious that what was in the package concerned Candy as much as Marlene, and it was equally obvious that Frank didn't think I would like what was in the package. His comment about free marriage and AIDS gave me a hint as to why he and Marlene broke up, but I trusted Candy implicitly. The next 2 days dragged on endlessly. A package arrived at my office on Thursday morning. I told the secretary that I didn't want to be disturbed, closed the office door, and opened the parcel. The box contained a videotape and an envelope made of thick paper measuring 30 x 35 centimeters. I opened the envelope and found 24 photographs measuring 20 x 25 centimeters and a copy of the report from Simpson Investigations. The photos were of Marlene, Candy, and 3 men. They were obviously made in a bar. The lighting was poor, but the photos showed 2 women and 3 men either dancing or sitting in a booth. The dancing photos that featured Candy showed a man's hand as she smiled at him. Only in one of the pictures taken in the booth, Candy was clearly visible, and in it a man was hugging her shoulders, and she was smiling at him. Other photos showed Marlene kissing 3 men and groping her. The Simpson Investigation Department report says that they picked up the object, Marlene, and an unidentified companion, Candy, at 1945 at the place of residence of the object. The subject was followed to the Harris Grill bar, where the subject and her companion met with 3 unidentified men. The report went on to say that 2 women were seen in extremely friendly relationships with 3 men. At 22:15, 2 women and 3 men left the Harris, crossed the street and went to the Venus Motel, where they entered room 116, where they stayed until 1:30. Then the object and her companion were taken to the place of residence of the object, where they arrived at 2:05. It seems like my absolute trust in Candy was a little misplaced. I took the videotape and went down to the conference room where we had a TV and a VCR installed. I locked the door behind me and watched the recording. It only showed Marlene and Candy walking from the bar with 3 men to room 116 and going inside at 8:15, and at 1:30 they leave the room. I had been married twice before, and both marriages broke up when I caught my wives cheating, so I already knew how denial works and how much time you have to wait, hoping that in fact everything is not so bad and everything will get better, and it hurts in the long run. I called my friend Roger, who was also my lawyer, and asked if he could spare me a few minutes of his time. He said he could help me, and I went straight to his office. He told me what I already understood myself. I had no proof, at least not from what I had. He repeated them point by point. The photos themselves don't mean anything. We don't know what happened the moment before the picture was taken, or the moment after it was taken. The photo could have been taken at the very moment when she could have pushed that hand away or slapped the man. The same can be said about the photo in which the man's arm is hugging her. We don't know what happened immediately before or after, and the investigator's report doesn't mention Candy or what she did. Their target was Marlene, and it was on her that they focused. The record only proves that 2 women entered the motel room with 3 men. They didn't go from the bar to the office and didn't rent a room, which means that 1 or more men had already stayed there, so you couldn't demonstrate an intention to commit adultery. Once in the room, we have no idea what they were doing. They may have been playing cards or watching videos. What, in our opinion, happened does not matter. The only thing that matters is what you can prove in court, and you don't have any evidence. You have very good reason to believe that your wife is cheating on you. You have 2 options: face Candy and hope she confesses everything, or hire your own investigator to make inquiries about her. That's what I did. I hired a firm of private detectives and let them go hunting. They quickly established that during the bachelorette party, Candy and Marlene went to bars, filmed men and took them to motels. Since these were different bars or motels, it was difficult for investigators to obtain reliable audio or video evidence. Do you have to travel as part of your job? The lead investigator asked me. Often. Could you go on a long trip, say, for 4 or 5 days, or simulate a business trip of the same duration? I could, but why? Both women live in your house. This is the place where they are most comfortable, and I believe that if you were away for a few days, they would take the men they pick up to your house, not to a motel. It will be quite easy to connect your home to audio and video recordings. That night at dinner, I told Candy that I was planning a business trip next week. I'm leaving on Monday and won't be back until late Friday or maybe even Saturday, so you'll have plenty of work to do. What do you mean? I mean, from today until Monday morning, you have to give me enough love to last me a whole week. Candy smiled. I can do it. And she did it. She wore me out almost every night until Monday came. She even sent Marlene from home to stay at home with me. On Monday morning, I kissed Candy goodbye, told her she could contact me on the phone if she needed me, and left the house pretending to go on a trip. I drove across town, checked into a hotel, and then went to work. Marlene found a job, so on Monday, after both women went to work, a detective agency broke into the house and installed wiring there. On Tuesday morning, a detective called me and said that 2 women had left the house, picked up 2 men, and went to a motel. Tuesday night was a repeat of Monday night, except that 2 women drove the 3 men they met to a motel. On Friday morning, I got a call and was told that they were ready to report. The women picked up 2 men and brought them home. There were 3 of them on Thursday evening. The detective told me that I could stop by his office on Friday afternoon to pick up the report and tapes. I told them I'd be there in the afternoon, and then I called Candy at work and said I'd be home in the evening. That same day, I went to the Myron Investigations office to pick up the report and the tapes. Have you looked through them? Yes, we have reviewed the results of both recordings. Did we get what I need for a divorce? It's hard to say. I don't understand. Did you have evidence of my wife's infidelity? Again, it's hard to say. You will have to review the recording and make your own decision. Come on. Either you have her on tape making love to another man or you don't. Well, I can make that clear. On neither of the 2 nights that we have a record of, did your wife make love to another man. You mean she's not cheating on me? Again, it should be your decision. You will need to review the records and form your own opinion on this matter. I paid the bill, then picked up the tapes and returned to my office. Everyone left for the weekend, so I went into the conference room, locked the door behind me, and sat down to watch the recording. The episode, filmed on Wednesday night, began with Candy, Marlene, and 2 men entering Marlene's room. Marlene and the 2 men immediately undressed, and Candy went to a chair, sat down, and watched. The man came up to Candy and said, "Come on, honey, take off your clothes and let's have some fun." I'm sorry, but I told you before we left the bar that I'm not cheating on my husband. You knew before we came here that it would be just the 2 of you and Marlene. What's the matter? Do you enjoy watching it? It doesn't matter. The only thing you need to know is that you're not going to be lucky with me. The recording lasted 3 hours, and I quickly replayed most of it. Throughout this time, Candy sat in an armchair and watched Marlene take both men on herself. At some point, I stopped rewinding and saw Marlene enjoying herself. I didn't like Marlene, but I couldn't deny that she had a great body and she looked damn beautiful. Marlene screamed, "Hey, stop bothering her and come here." The guy reluctantly left Candy and approached Marlene, who told him to lie on his back on the bed, and when he did, she climbed over him. She leaned forward, almost lying on his chest, and then said to the other guy, "Okay, Stan, you know what to do." "Take it easy, Stan, take your time. Take your time and let me get used to it." Oh yeah, baby, that's it. God, it feels so good." The guy downstairs did almost nothing except lie down and let Marlene fondle him. Candy, who was standing on the sidelines, watched what was happening, but it was the only action she performed in that room that night. That was the end of it for both men. They got up and dressed, and Marlene walked them out. In the next segment of the recording, Candy could be seen coming into our bedroom, undressing and lying down on the bed. 2 minutes later, Marlene came into the room and got into bed with Candy. "I saw you, girlfriend. I saw you put your hand up your skirt. When will you finally stop this? You want. You're missing a great opportunity." "How many times do I have to tell you, Mar? Hal has 2 ex-wives who became exes because they cheated on him. I love him and I don't want to be an ex-wife, so I'm not cheating." "Well, all I can say is that you're missing out on a damn good time. Come on, baby, take care of me." My jaw almost dropped to the floor when Candy stood up and landed on her best friend. After she calmed down, Marlene said, "Oh my God, baby, that was fucking great. You do it better than anyone else." Candy reached out, turned off the light, and the 2 women snuggled up to each other. After a few minutes, I heard the steady breathing of sleeping people. I wanted a drink, and my boss had a bar in his office, so I went down there, got myself 2 blackjack and an ice cube, went back to the conference room and turned on the recording. 2 women and 3 men entered the room, and one of the men said, "Why don't we take the room across the hall? There's a bigger bed there." "This is my husband's bed, so we won't use it." "Why the hell not? He's not here and he'll never know." "No, he wouldn't know," Candy said. "But I wouldn't agree. The bed here is big enough." Marlene was already undressing, and the 3 men began to undress. Marlene undressed first. She came over and helped one guy take off his pants. When the 3 of them had undressed, Marlene walked to the edge of the bed and the 3 men followed her. Marlene was sitting on the edge of the bed and 3 men were lined up in front of her with their backs to me. I saw Marlene's eyes widen and an expression of amazement appeared on her face. "Damn it, I do not know if I can bear it. Candy, you have to look at this." Candy got up from her chair and walked over to Marlene, and I saw her eyebrows go up and an expression appeared on her face that I didn't recognize. My view was still blocked by the backs of the 3 men, but it seemed to me that Candy reached out to touch something and then pulled it back as if she had been burned. She turned and headed back to her chair, but stopped on the way to take another look at what it was. Marlene told one man that he would have to wait until the other 2 stretched her and then lay on her back, and the 2 men moved closer to her. The man who remained standing looked at the 3 people on the bed and then turned to look at Candy, and I realized what all the commotion was about. The 2 men on the bed were already working on Marlene. Finally, he came up to her. "I know what you said at the bar, but that was before you saw it. You want it, honey. You almost mastered it a few minutes ago. You want it and he wants you. Come on, honey, join the party." I can't." "Of course you can, honey. No one but us in this room will know about it. Come on, sweetie. That's what you want and you know it." No, I can't." "Come on, touch it." Candy started kissing him anyway. "Come on, honey, let's stop fooling around. Take off your clothes and let's use it." Another minute and he groaned. "That's it, honey, that's it." Then I decided, whether I like it or not, I will keep this record. In the background, I saw Candy get up and leave the room. When Marlene had squeezed the 3 men dry, they got dressed and she walked them out. The scene changed to Candy entering our bedroom. She quickly undressed, grabbed a hairbrush from the dresser, and then climbed onto the bed and used it for herself. She got up, took a shower, and then undressing, got into bed and began to read. After about 5 minutes, she put down the book, got up and went to the bedroom door. She opened it and went into the other room, but then she stopped dead, maybe for a minute, and then turned around, went back to the bed and grabbed the comb again. When she calmed down, Marlene said, "What's wrong, girlfriend? I thought you were going to do it tonight. I thought Lex really got to you." "He almost got his way. You'll never know how close I was to that. You had to make up your mind, baby. You missed a great moment. I've never been so full. You may never get the chance to do something like this again. From my point of view, this is good. I'm not going to lie to Hal. I love this man, and I will not allow myself to lose him. It doesn't make sense, Candy. Hal will never know. But I got married and I won't be able to look into his eyes. Well, this is your life. I turned off the TV and sat staring at the wall. Now I understood what the detective meant when he said that I would have to decide for myself whether she cheated on me. Is it so? Technically, yes, she was cheating. Manual labor was still an act with a man other than her husband, and what she did with Marlene on both nights was interacting with another person, even though it wasn't a man. God, I didn't know whether to be angry or not. Candy made it clear both times that no one was going to mess with her, and she told Marlene that she loved me too much to cheat on me and risk losing me. But what the hell was wrong with her going to the bar with Marlene, hoping for something, and then going to watch? It bothered me. It was very disturbing. Candy ran out to greet me when I walked through the front door. She hugged me, kissed me, and told me how much she missed me. I hope you had dinner on the plane, darling, because I didn't cook for you today. I was planning on dragging you into the bedroom right away. If you're lucky, I'll probably come to the point where you have the strength to get out of bed in the morning so you can have breakfast. I don't think so, Candy. We need to talk. Is Marlene here? No, she's gone. Good. I would prefer that she was not present at this. What's the matter, Hal? What happened? I went into the kitchen, sat down at the table, and motioned for Candy to sit across from me. Frank called me the other day, and although he didn't tell me why he and Marlene broke up, he said he would send me a package explaining everything. Candy's face turned pale when she heard that. I opened my briefcase, took out the photos, videotape, and report he had sent me, and slid them across the table to Candy. Suppose you read this, look at the pictures, and then tell me why I shouldn't treat you the same way as the last two cheating fools I was married to. While you're reading, I'm going to unpack and take a shower. I left her sitting at her desk, staring at the photos and the report. 20 minutes passed before I went down to the kitchen. Candy was crying, and when I entered the room, she didn't look up at me. After a minute or two of silence, I said, "Well, what can you say for yourself? It looks like you've already made up your mind, Hal. Does it really matter what I say? Not if it doesn't matter to you." What does this mean? It just means that if you're ready to accept what I think, then so be it. It's not what you think, Hal. Come on, Candy, how can it not be the way I think it is? Two girls go to a bar together, meet three guys, go with them to a motel room where they stay for 3 hours. Am I supposed to believe that you were playing Monopoly? No, but I didn't do anything with any of these men. What? Are you saying that you just sat and watched Marlene make love to the three of them? Yes, Hal, that's all I did. Am I supposed to believe that? You probably won't believe it, but it's true. You're going to have to explain it to me. Marlene is a nymphomaniac. I know the doctors say there is no such thing, but they don't know Marlene. Marlene loves several partners, and she had some unpleasant moments when she was alone with several guys. I'm supporting her to keep her safe. I can't imagine 2 or 3 guys not being able to run over you, tie you up, and then do whatever they want with Marlene, and with you too, for that matter. I have a .380 caliber llama that you bought me when we had a series of robberies in our neighborhood. Do you carry a gun in your purse? Only on those evenings when I go out with Marlene. How the hell did you take it with you when you flew to her? I didn't have to take him with me. Marlene had her own pistol, a small .32 automatic. I used it when I visited her. The .32 caliber won't stop anyone. It makes them stop and think when it's pointed at their crotch. Did you do that? Twice. And you expect me to believe that? Believe it or not, Hal, it's true. Is that why you visited Marlene? Mostly. And this is how you girls spend your evenings when she returned here? Yes. And you're saying you've never done anything during these little walks? I've been touched a few times, but I've never made love to another man. Have you never made love? No, well, I think it happened once. What was that? I once gave pleasure to a guy. Why? I really don't know. I guess it was because I was curious. Is that all? No other activity in the evenings? No, Hal, that was the only time. What are you going to do? I'm trying to make myself believe you. I'll try and see if I can handle it, but I have to pay for my attempts. What? I want you to end your relationship with Marlene. I want her out of this house by Sunday, and I don't want you to deal with her anymore." "Come on, Hal. She's been my best friend for over 25 years. I can't turn my back on her." "A candy of your choice. The point is, if she stays in your life, I'll leave. And if she leaves and I stay, I'll only stay as long as you stay away from her. And one more thing. I'm not stupid, so I'm going to get tested for sexually transmitted diseases as soon as I can get an appointment. And I want you to do the same. That means at least 6 months, because that's how long it takes for AIDS to manifest. Hal, I swear to you, I haven't had an affair with another man since I met you. I've always believed that it's better to be safe than sorry, Candy. Your story is so unusual that I'm ready to believe it might be true. But as I said, I'm not a fool and I'm not going to take any chances. These are my terms, Candy. You either accept them or you don't." I got up from the table and left her standing there, staring at my back. On Saturday, Marlene found an apartment, and by Sunday evening, she had moved into it. Candy apparently explained my request to Marlene, and a lot of tears were shed because of it, and Candy was just unbearable for a couple of weeks. 4 months had passed, and as far as I could tell, Candy had never met Marlene for lunch or a cup of coffee. They talked a lot on the phone, but I didn't care. All I demanded was that Candy and Marlene never go anywhere together or be alone. Our bedtime had slowed down somewhat, but otherwise our relationship seemed to be as strong as it was before I received the package from Frank. Then came the week when the company sent me out of town on business for 3 days. I told Candy about it, and then called the detective agency I had contacted earlier. It was 2 days before Christmas, and after dinner I handed Candy a gift-wrapped box. "What is it?" "An early Christmas present." She unwrapped the wrapping paper and found a cardboard box. Inside were 3 envelopes measuring 25 x 35 centimeters and a videotape. The letters A, B, and C were on the envelopes. "What is it?" "Start with the letter A and then watch the video. When you're done watching the video, read the B and then open the C. I'll be upstairs." I left Candy sitting where she was and went up to our bedroom. A is the detective's report from my last fake business trip. B. In this envelope was a detective's report on my business trip that I had just made, and the video, of course, was from Candy's adventures. The B envelope contained the divorce papers. I was packing my bag when Candy burst into the room. "You bastard, how could you do this to me?" "I offered you to choose Candy, me or Marlene, and you chose Marlene." "So what? You already knew I was telling you the truth when we had that stupid meeting in the kitchen. I told you I was just sitting and watching. For God's sake, Hal, you saw it on video." "Yes, Candy, but that wasn't all I saw on the tape, was it? I saw you and the guy, how close you were to taking him. I saw how after you left the room you were going crazy with a comb thinking about a guy. And I saw you get out of bed and go to Marlene and her guys. You didn't do it, but you almost did. And I knew that if you kept running with Marlene, the day would come when you'd slip up. What else did I see, Candy? I saw Marlene making love to 5 different men, and then I saw you pounce on her. No matter how much this little cheater made love, she could have gotten sick even before this video was shot. That was another reason why I wanted you to stay away from Marlene so that you wouldn't pick up anything if you turned out to be clean. I gave you a chance, Candy. All you had to do was stay away from Marlene, but you didn't. I left you alone for 3 nights, Candy, and what did you do? You went to a bar with Marlene and then to a motel for all 3 nights. You made your choice, Candy, and it wasn't me. Now, if you don't mind, I'd like to finish packing. Are you going to leave? Are you really going to leave me? Yes. She ran out of the room, and a few minutes later I heard a loud crack and the sound of breaking glass. The door slammed. I heard the garage door opening mechanism go off, and then there was silence, and I continued to pack my things. End.